guys, this is Pam, and I don't want to call this a podcast, but I have been wanting to do a little video just sharing some of the things that I've been working on with you. I don't have any plans to really do this on a consistent basis, but maybe I'll be regularly inconsistent. Today is January 31st, and I finished a couple of projects recently, and I'm working on a couple of new ones, and I thought I would share them with you. So one of the things I did was I finished a cowl. Years ago, I used to travel for work a lot, and I went to Chicago and I bought some Madeline Tosh while I was there at a yarn store in downtown. And it's in the tart colorway, which if you're familiar with it, it's like this beautiful deep red color that has a lot of black in it. So a couple of years ago, I made myself a hat, and I made up the pattern. It's fluffy brioche around the brim that you can see there, and I really wanted it to be warm, so I lined it on the inside with a second layer. And I do like this hat when it's really cold, and I hate to be cold, I wear this. And I wanted to make a cowl that would match it, but I made this one up. I just kind of improvised the pattern, and I didn't feel like making up a cowl, so I happened to see that the Pearl Soho pattern for classic cowl was the same stitch pattern, and that's what this is. So I used the hat as my gauge, and I'm a little disappointed in how long this is. I do wish that it had been a little bit taller and a little bit less long, but that's okay. I'll make it work. And but I did finish this recently. It's really fluffy and warm, and it is a brioche, but it's a single color brioche, and it was so easy I didn't even know I was doing brioche. So earlier this year when I decided to make an effort to learn brioche. As soon as I started doing it, I was like, wait a minute, I'm sorry, that's my cat. She's being a little bit crazy. This is Pepper. So when I started to do the brioche earlier this year, I was like, hey, I've already done this before. How about that? So I did finish this, and I do like it. So this had a tubular bind on, or tubular cast on, and a tubular bind off. And I thought, well, that's cool. I don't know how to do that, so I'll take this opportunity to learn how to do it. So the cast on I found to be really easy. I didn't have any issues with it at all. And while I was working on this, I actually made myself some mittens that I had been wanting to do. And I liked that tubular cast on so much that I decided to use it for the gloves. So these are the gloves that I made. They're the connectivity gloves from Knitty, and this yarn, the Green Fingers, is it's from a company called Feel Good Yarn Company, and it actually is silver spun into the yarn so that you can use it on your phone while you're walking. And the other thing you can do, well, you don't have to be walking, you could just be outside, but you can fold up that cuff. So if you don't want your fingers to get cold, you can fold that cuff up and cover your fingers. And I have been wearing these quite a bit when I walk my dog, because I walk her every day, and it's been pretty cold this winter. The yarn for the hand part of the glove came from Junebug Fibers on Fiber Crafty, and the color is called African Turquoise, and I think it is just stunning. I think it's a really beautiful, rich, and sophisticated colorway, and I loved working with the yarn. It's 100% merino, and it's a worsted weight. So I did the tubular cast on for the wrist, and then when I got to the top, I had to do the tubular bind off. And let me tell you, this was unintentional, but I'm so glad that I learned how to do the tubular bind off on these mittens instead of across 200 some stitches on the cowl, because it took me a couple of tries to figure it out. I used the tutorial that was on the Pearl B Classic Cowl pattern that it was linked to, and I did the bind off, and it didn't look right to me, so I picked it out. And then I went and found another one, and it didn't make sense to me. And then I looked again, and I think it took me about 2 times of picking it out, and then finally, like the 5th or 6th tutorial that I looked at actually clicked, and I was watching, I was like, that's it, so easy. So I actually wrote a blog post on this a couple of weeks ago on knowing how you learn and finding resources that will help you according to the way that you learn. And if you do want to read that, you can go to the Fibercrafty blog page, and the link for the blog is all the way at the bottom of the homepage. But anyhow, so by the time I finished this pair of gloves, I had mastered the tubular cast off or bind off, and I finished this cowl shortly after and was able to do the tubular bind off with no problems at all. But it's a lovely bind off. I really like how it looks. It's stretchy. So if you haven't tried it before, I would encourage you to check it out and give it a go. And again, the pattern for this was the classic cowl by Pearl Soho. And the pattern for the gloves is the Connectivity gloves, and it's in Knitty from a couple of years ago. So since I finished those, I also finished some spinning. Actually, I should have brought that, but I didn't. But I am going to start some new spinning, and I kind of don't really feel like a lot of fiber prep right now. So I've had this for a couple of several years. I bought it at the Carolina Fiber Festival at least 3 years ago, probably 4. But this is, it's just some pencil roving, and this came from Unplanned Peacock. She's based in Virginia, and it's 64% superwash merino, 20% silk, 15% nylon, and 2% sparkle. And since this won't really take a lot of prep, this is what I decided I'm going to spin next. And I pulled out a bunch of braids, but this decision was purely dictated by my desire to just put something on the wheel instead of prepping a braid. But I think this is pretty, and I like this color green a lot, and I like that it has some sparkle in it. Can you see that? So that's going to be my next spinning project. I think it's 4 ounces. So I have 2 other projects on the needles that I'm really excited about. One of them is a test knit. I don't know if you're familiar with Prairie Girls Knit and Spin podcast. It is one of my favorites. The girls are hilarious, and I learn a lot from the podcast, and I'm also highly entertained. So I've been a fan of theirs for a long time. That's one of those podcasts that I listened to the first couple of episodes, and then I went back and listened to all of them from the very beginning, and that was probably a couple of years ago, so there's a lot more episodes now. But I'm doing a test knit for Susie White, who is one of the co-hosts, and her design business is Prairie Girls Designs, and she said she was looking for test knitters for a cowl pattern. So I'm really close to being finished, and hopefully I'll finish by the end of the weekend, if not before. But this is unblocked, of course, because it's still on the needles, but isn't that pretty? When I first saw pictures of it, I thought it was cabled, but it's not. It's just creatively placed yarn overs and increases and decreases. I'm trying to see if you can see that better. The yarn I'm using is from Bugbear Woolens. It is a DK weight yak superwash merino and silk blend, and it is every bit as good as it sounds. It's really soft and luxurious feeling, and it's got that little bit of shine from the silk in it, and I hope you can see the variation in color. So it's tonal, and it's got really beautiful subtle variations. But the way this cowl is shaped is you have some buttonholes and a placket. I don't have any buttons sewn on. It's got a picot edge, and then you join to knit in the round, and the rest of it will be a tube. And what you can do is unbutton it and wear it open across your shoulders, or if it's cold and you want more of it on your neck, you can button it up and kind of squish it up on your neck. And I bought some buttons to go with it, and they're just plain. I didn't want to get anything very fancy because of the patterning that's, sorry, I didn't undo this little package before. I didn't want anything that was going to take away from the patterning and the picots, so I think these will look really nice on here because they won't be overly distracting. They'll just kind of go. So those are the buttons I'm going to be sewing on. And I'll post pictures when I finish all this. The other pattern I'm really excited about is a sweater, and I don't often make sweaters, but I saw this one and it had some Malabrigo Finito in my stash for, again, years, and I really wanted to use it. I had kind of earmarked it for a sweater, and I had 2 colors that go nicely together, and this is called Archer by Elizabeth Doherty. And I'm sorry, that is a black and white printout, but the sweater is beautiful. It has some split seams on the sides, and it has this beautiful braid across the top. And the version that I'm making, she's got a solid color version, which is this one, or this picture shows, and then she's got a striped version. And I'm actually making the striped version. So these are my 2 colors. So you can see it's going to be really subtle, but this is Malabrigo Lavenda or Lavenda, and then this is called Pearl 10. So this lavender has a lot of browns in it, and then this Pearl 10 is pretty much the same kind of gray brown. So I think it's going to be really subtle, but I'm excited about it. And I haven't gotten very far, but this is the back yoke. And next up are the stripes. So I'm getting ready to start the stripes, and I can't wait to see how they turn out. And it's gone, I think this has gone really fast. I kind of put it on hold to get that cowl done for Susie. But one of the things, there's a lot of short rows in this shaping of this, and I wanted to alternate skeins, but that's really tricky to do with short rows, so I didn't want to have to deal with navigating 2 balls of yarn on a short row situation. So I knit the top section of short rows, and I actually took a picture and marked it up, and I'm gonna put it in my project page. I don't think I've done it yet, but I did the top section with skein 1. And then you have a section where you just knit straight for a while in stockinette. And I alternated skein 1 and 2 in that section. And then in this bottom section where you do short rows again, I just used skein 2. So I hope that makes sense, but I think it worked out really well, and I think that I'm gonna do the exact same thing for the front yoke, where I'm gonna do skein 1 at the top, alternate for the section where it's knit straight, and then do just skein 2 for the second half of short rows. And since I'm getting ready to start stripes on this, I'm gonna start with skein 3, because I'm gonna save the leftovers of 1 and 2 for the sleeves, to start the sleeves when I get there. So I think that worked out really well. And this finito, I'm a little worried about how much it's gonna pill. This is 100% super fine merino, but it feels so good. I mean, it's really, I don't know, it's just really nice, but I hope this doesn't turn into a pilling nightmare. So that is the other project that I've been working on. I do have another cowl on my needles, but I haven't really been working on that except for here and there, so I'll have to talk about that again at some other point. But anyhow, I just thought I would do a quick update, share with you the things that I have been working on, and some of the things that I have learned doing these projects. And I will inconsistently at some point in the future do another update, and if you guys like this, let me know, and maybe I will try to be more consistent. But this is not another knitting podcast. This is just me sort of checking in and saying hello to everybody out there. So I hope you have a fabulous day full of fiber, and you are able to get your crafting on. And if you have any comments or questions, then please let me know, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.